Hi everyone, David Aragona and Craig Milkowski here, taking a look at one of four graded stakes races on Saturday at Belmont at the Big A, or Aqueduct. This one is for the 2-year-old fillies on the turf. It is the Grade 2 Miss Grillo Stakes, going a mile and a 16th. Craig, this one serves as a prep for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf, and just a field of 6 signed on, and a lot of horses that I think we still have to learn a little something about, because most of them are fairly lightly raced, a few stretching out for the first time. They're definitely stepping up to face each of them, the toughest field that they've met so far.
No doubt about it. We have sprinters stretching out for the first time. We have horses who have only run once or twice. I think all but one has only broken their maiden, if memory serves. So it's an interesting race, both from a who's going to win perspective, from a pace projector's perspective, and pretty tough, I think, to handicap.
Let's throw up the field of 6 for this one. I made the morning line favorite, the number 6, Be Your Best at 6-5, who I do think will take plenty of money in here. She's really been untested in 2 career starts, undefeated. The number 2, Free Look, going out for the Chad Brown stable. I know he's always quite popular in these races. Craig has a great record with the 2-year-olds in these stakes races, so she could take some money as well. But there are some bigger prices that have run some decent speed figures that are stretching out in distance, so definitely a lot of upside in this race. And before we get to the major contenders, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector, because Craig, even though there are some horses stretching out from sprints, there's not that much confirmed front-running speed in this field.
Right. The horses were shown up front, the 5 horse, I'm Just Kidding, and the 2 horse, Free Look. Free Look has running routes, but really hasn't shown speed. She just comes out of a race that had a really fast pace. And I'm Just Kidding was up close to a pace in a sprint race, so we're just kind of projecting, but it's definitely a muddled picture when it comes to pace in this one.
Yeah, there are some horses that are going out for the same connections. Jorge Abreu has 2 in here. Maybe he'll use one as a bit more of a pace type to set things up for his other rival. So definitely a jockey's race, because a lot of these have not shown the tendency to go to the front end in their prior starts. Let's take these runners in post-position order, go through the entire field of 6. We'll begin with the number 1, Georgie Spirit, and let's take a look at the replay of her last race when she broke her maiden at Saratoga at second asking. Craig, this was her first time on the turf, and she definitely took to the new surface.
Yeah, she improved quite a bit from her debut on dirt. She ran a huge speed figure on Timeform US, a 106, which was quite a jump. Unfortunately, as so often happens in racing today, even though it was a big field and the race was just about a month ago, not a single horse has run back. Something I like to do with these 2-year-olds is kind of verify the speed figures as horses run back, but we don't have that option here. So there's a little bit of question mark over that 106 she ran on Timeform US last time.
Yeah, I had some similar questions. I know the buyer number for this race was a little bit lower. I think it was just a 70 buyer that this horse got for that race. So that dirt definitely puts her in the mix if she's able to build on that number stretching out in distance. I do question the stretch out, though, a little bit, Craig, because looking at the dam side pedigree, it's a little sprinty. We still don't know that much about More Spirit as a sire. And Jorge Abreu, her trainer, who has 2 runners in here, not the best numbers with stretch outs. Let's throw up a DRF Formulator fact for Georgie Spirit, and this actually also applies to Abreu's other horse in this race, Alluring Angel, who we'll get to in a little bit. Just whether it's first time route or stretching out from sprints to routes in general, just not a strong move for this barn.
No, when you say not the best, I think you were sugarcoating it. 1 for 45. That's about as awful a formulator stat as I think we've ever put up here, with 23 cents returned on the $2. So she's not one I'd want to take a short price on. But, you know, given the speed figure, she is the longest price or second longest price on the morning line. It's just one I'm going to have to keep an eye on the tote board, because if she drifted up from that, sometimes I'll throw the stats out the window, and that just might be one of those cases.
Yeah, and she's one who I would not be surprised to see get a more aggressive ride here, just given the running style of her stablemate, who might need some help up front. Let's move on to the number 2, Free Look, and we'll take a look at her maiden breaking score from Saratoga on September 4th. This was the second start of her career, and Craig, I liked what I saw here. She was more engaged early in the race, got moving on the far turn a little bit earlier than she was able to in her debut, and she ran away from this field pretty impressively in the end.
Right. And what I really liked is not only was she more engaged, she was more engaged with a race that had a really fast pace. We have all of the fractions coded in red. She was able to lay up close to it. And this is actually one of those races where I had to knock the speed figure down a little bit because of that fast pace. Had I not, you can see in the Timeform USPPs, the final time number is actually a 109, but the overall number was just a 97. I actually did look up the chart, and I think that was a really solid adjustment, as we have had some run backs from this race. They've all kind of ran back to the speed figure that I gave them, not noticeably faster, as would be, which would cause some concern if I had knocked it down and then all the horses were coming back with quicker numbers.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The pace definitely was honest that day. It did come apart a little bit, but it's not like Free Look was that far back. She was fifth in the middle of a 10-horse pack moving down the backstretch, and she was the one that made the first move after those leaders to kind of break the race open. A big improvement on her first start when she actually was beaten by Be Your Best, who she's going to face off against here, but she was just really far back the entire way that day. Seems like one that's moving in the right direction for the Chad Brown stable, and I get the sense that she does have some ability. Also, you're going to get a little bit of a read on that September 4th race, because the horse that was second to her, Freitas the Red, is coming back in the second race on Saturday at Aqueduct. So she's going to run a little bit earlier than Free Look on this card. Craig, Chad Brown, he has a reputation for doing well in these races, but you wanted to show this formulator stat for Chad, because while he has a decent success rate, these horses do take a lot of money.
They do take a lot of money. As you can see, he's won with just over 25%, 6 for 23 with horses coming out of a maiden win, 2-year-olds moving right into graded stakes. But you also only get $1.13 per $2 on that return. So if you like her here, you better really like her a lot, because she is going to take quite a bit of money, I'm sure.
Up next is the number 3, Pleasant Passage. She is the least experienced runner in this race, coming off just one start. That was a debut win up at Saratoga. Craig, I guess she was a bit of a secret that day, because she went off at 15-1, but she ran a pretty professional race coming up the inside to get the job done. Just feels like she's going to have to run pretty much significantly faster in her second start.
My only knock on her is that speed figure. She only got an 86 that day. She did it with a perfect trip, as you say. I mean, she had a little trouble at the beginning, I guess, but she basically saved ground the whole way. What I did like that I saw from her, was that she was really game. You don't see it in the running line, but she was actually passed for the lead pretty late in that race and fought back to take over and get the win, and was actually pulling away a little bit at the wire. So she's one that would need to improve, but we at least know she's a professional looking 2-year-old already.
Yeah, my biggest knock against her is that that was run during a period of time on the inner turf course at Saratoga, where it did seem like the rail was a pretty significant advantage, and she hugged the rail for her entire trip. It was a blanket finish. There were about 6 or 7 horses within 2 lengths of each other at the wire. So I'm not sure if she ran the best race or the 5th best race, just based on the way it unfolded and the trips worked out. So I do think she's going to have to take a step forward here, though she does go out for a trainer who is known for getting his runners to improve with time. Up next is the number 4, Alluring Angel. She is the other Jorge Abreu trained runner in this race. And Craig, she was very visually impressive on debut at Saratoga, just going 5.5 furlongs, but she unleashed a big turn of foot at the top of the stretch to run down a field of 9 runners, getting the job done by half a length. Came back last time at Kentucky Downs, and I thought she hung a little bit to lose as the even money favorite.
She did, I think. It was a tough race at Kentucky Downs, a big purse race, obviously. One, I thought she was pretty game to the wire, but wasn't able to quite finish it off. One thing to note is this was towards the end of the meet, so if you see that wide comment, it's not as bad as it would have been earlier in the meet. Horses seem to do a little bit better on the outside than they had on many days at Kentucky Downs, but I still don't think it was an ideal trip. She lost a lot of ground, and unlike the other Jorge Abreu horse, I have a little trouble lumping this one into that sprint category, just because it came at Kentucky Downs, where they're basically running 7 furlongs because of the really long run up. They're doing it up a hill, up some hills, and a topsy-turvy kind of course. So of the two, I much prefer this one to the other Jorge Abreu, just because I'm not sure she can't get the distance, and that this one really fits into that formulator stat as nicely as the other one.
Yeah, she does come into this race looking pretty fast on Timeform US. Her debut is another race that I'm not quite convinced that the 102 is representative of that field. We've seen some horses come back and regress a little bit from that race. A few of the turf sprints at Saratoga, I think, were tough to make speed figures for, so I'll be interested to see if she can run that kind of number going the longer distance. But given that turn of foot that she has in her running style, I think she is going to need some pace up front, so we'll see how that develops for Alluring Angel. Another horse who's trying to stretch out from sprint distances is the number 5, I'm Just Kiddin'. She's a New York bred who's moving up to face Open Company for the first time, but she doesn't exactly have a New York bred pedigree by Justify, that first crop sire who's had a lot of success. Her dam, Concord Kid, she was a grade 3 winner on the turf. And Craig, this one's a half to Bar of Gold, who a lot of people remember as the upset winner of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint.
Yes, at a huge price. And just want to, that's a good point you make. These state breds today aren't your father's state breds, and certainly not your grandfather's. It's different rules in place. So I'm not sure this is one I would want to say is really a New York bred. But she ran fine her 2 times out, barely missing on the dirt one last time. But she would have to improve a little bit. And we're going to look at a formulator stat for her that kind of leaves me against her.
Yeah, not the best numbers for John Kimmel trying a route for the first time with these 2-year-olds stretching out. Not really great for him either if you look up those stats. So a little bit of a reason to be skeptical of I'm Just Kiddin', though she does feel like one that's going to be a big price in this race, Craig, because she hasn't run that fast yet. She's stretching out off those New York bred races. And she's got a pedigree that says at a distance is not really supposed to be a problem for her. That dam who was the grade 3 winner, she won going 1 1/8 when she earned that grade 3 victory. So there is some pedigree for her to stretch out in distance. It does feel like she could be the speed in here. And we've seen Joel Rosario give some crafty rides on speeds in the past. So I wouldn't totally write her off based on that stat, just if she is the right price in your estimation. Let's finish things up among the contenders with the number 6, Be Your Best, and we'll take a look at her last out victory in the PG Johnson Stakes up at Saratoga. And Greg, I think you have to like the professionalism that this filly shows on this day, sneaking through on the inside of that leader, opposite of the kind of trip that she got in her debut where she rallied down the center of the racetrack. But the result has been the same both times, her just going away at the end to win by 3+ lengths.
Yeah, she's looked good visually. My only real issue with her is her speed figures are less than several others in here. I should say several. It's only a 6-horse field, but at least 3 or 4 others have run faster on the Timeform US numbers. I'm not sure that stakes race last time was the strongest race we're ever going to see. You know, she did beat Free Look last in her maiden debut, as you pointed out. I'm not sure that one ran her best race that day. So at a short price, she's the one I want to play against personally.
I think she's shown a lot of talent in both of her races. Her debut was very visually impressive as she basically covered ground the entire way, going 3 to 4 wide around the track before drawing off at the end. Like I said, it was encouraging to see her come up the rail last time. I agree. She's not that fast coming in here. Her buyers are a 74 and 73, which are basically in line with her Timeform US numbers, maybe a slight edge on the buyer scale. But I mean, she's definitely not running the kinds of speed figures that single her out as, you know, a big favorite going on to the Breeders' Cup. She needs to take a step forward to beat a field like this, but given the promise that she showed in those first 2 starts, I don't argue with anybody who thinks that she has a faster race in here. Craig, let's throw up our picks for this race, and we're going in slightly different directions. I wanted to veer more towards those runners with the proven route experience. They are the 2 favorites on my morning line, so I'm probably not getting much of a price on either of them, but I did pick the number 2, Free Look, on top. Just thought she took a nice step forward last time, and I like the improved tractability that she showed in that race. So for me, it's her and Be Your Best, but I know you wanted to go in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, if you told me I had to pick a winner and price didn't matter, I would certainly go with Free Look. I think she's the most likely winner. I just suspect she's going to get bet a little more than I would like. So I wanted to go in a different direction with Alluring Angel. I tend to like those horses that come out of Kentucky Downs races. I think they get a fitness edge, and I think she's one who will probably like a little more distance, despite that Jorge Abreu stat we saw earlier. As I said, I'm discounting that a little bit, just looking for a little more value with Alluring Angel.
It's the number 2, Free Look, for me, and the number 4, Alluring Angel, for Craig in Saturday's Grade 2 Miss Grillo Stakes at Belmont at the Big A. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.